Hello, I wanted to make this video discussing the fear of being perceived. And I wanted to talk about it because I am someone who definitely had a fear of being perceived for a very long time. And I don't struggle with it as much now, but I definitely did for a great portion of my life. And I wanted to discuss how that kind of came about. So, to see if anyone else relates, I grew up in a very conservative Christian church from the ages of 6 to 21. And during that time, I literally went to church 5 times a week, okay? 5 times a week. So I was constantly surrounded by church folks and, just sermons and rules and all that jazz. So I remember when I left the church ultimately when I was 21, I decided I'm like, I never want to be perceived ever if I can help it. And really, I associated being perceived with being judged. And so for me, I was like, I'm going to stay out of the limelight. I'm going to live a very private life. I'm not telling people my business. I became a very, very private person just because ultimately I didn't want to feel judged and I didn't want to be told what to do, how to do it, and how to live because that's all I had been used to like my whole life. Like since I was a young child, I was used to being told what's right, what's wrong, from the most, from things that are more significant to the most insignificant things like, you shouldn't do this because you don't want to ask for the wrong type of attention. Like it was that deep. Like everything was very very thought out, like, oh, why are you doing this, why are you sitting this way, why are you, so it was a very judgmental atmosphere. I did get a lot of great things from being raised in church, like a lot of great things, and I will never take that away. But I was very 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 afraid of being perceived. I didn't want to take pictures of what I was doing and post it online. I didn't really share much information about my personal life at work with, almost even with friends. I would refrain from saying too much because I didn't want them to have an opinion, which is crazy, right? And it wasn't up until recently that I'm like, there is no escaping being perceived. Okay. You're going to be perceived no matter where you are, whether you're at church, whether you're at school, whether you're at work, whether you're at the grocery store, like you're constantly being perceived. And I realize how I want to say debilitating and not debilitating. I don't know if that's the right word, but basically you kind of don't feel fully free within yourself when you live that way because you're always thinking about how others are thinking of you or what their judgment or thoughts are about you, which is crazy. Um, so this year specifically, I decided like, yeah, we don't care like that anymore, And I started to take up now some of the hobbies that I enjoy, which is blogging, which is why I even made this channel. Because I love this course and I love sharing stories and things that I've learned along the way, certain interests I have, even things that might be non-conventional for some people. But I realize that life is way too short to be concerned with that. And no one's really paying that much attention to you to the point where you feel like you should have to like hide yourself. Like it's not your job even to make others feel comfortable necessarily around you, because you might think a certain way or because you might choose to do certain things. So I'm deciding to embrace that part of me that is fearless, um, and just not live in a shell. And even ultimately, like, let's say I am this devout Christian person that wants to please God. Like being overly concerned with your with how you are perceived is kind of vain if you think about it, because really and truly your main focus should be, what God thinks of you and what you think of yourself. So I've shifted my thought process from, what will people say and how are they going to interpret my actions, to just saying, you know what, I'm going to live out my truth, and my moral compass will be based off of what actions and words and things can I do and live with. Like, I can go to sleep at night peacefully knowing that I did XYZ. Okay. And this doesn't mean I'm like some saint. It doesn't mean I'm like, a nun or a perfect person, but it just means that all the things that I choose to do have to go through this filter of, okay, can I sleep at night knowing that I did this? Can I sleep at night knowing that, I am this way? Like, this is who I am. Because ultimately, that is the reality. The reality is not what you portray for others. It's who you are when you're being yourself. And I envy those people so much, because I'm like, that is awesome that you were able to live in your truth from such a young age without the outside noise. Like, there's so much outside noise that sometimes you kind of end up just doing things to make sure that you conform to certain norms and what's acceptable. But I don't know, this is going to be amazing to kind of embrace like my true self and not being too consumed with the outside voices again. So I encourage you also to embrace that part of yourself, and I'm sure you won't regret it, because honestly, already I'm starting to feel a little bit more free. Like, yes, it is a little nerve-wracking to put yourself out there. Whether that's expressing an opinion, showing parts of yourself that usually are a little bit more, private, and there's still things that you should, you know, keep private, but just feeling like you can't have an opinion, or feeling like you can't share things because of XYZ, like, no, like, we're not doing that anymore. Okay. So definitely challenge yourself to live within that freedom, being respectful, being kind to others, but living your truth and attracting those people that are meant to surround you while you're being your true self, because that's another aspect of being living in your truth. So yeah, I hope this was helpful, and leave me your comments regarding like what makes you fearful of being perceived, like what ignited that fear in you, and what you're doing to work through it. I'm very interested. Thank you so much for listening.